name is Chrissy Clements. Everyone watches accesstv.org.
Welcome to another series of Education One. And this is going to be a special segment of Education One. And we're going to go backwards to go forward. I'm going to give you a brief history, a middle, and an ending, how this all started. In 1997, there was a woman named Myrtle E. Cephas. My mother asked me to teach kids in the north end of Hartford. We moved from the South Bronx in the 70s. From the South Bronx, I was born and raised, hung out, went to St. Augustine's. We played stickball at St. Raymond's, ran track at McComb's in Harlem. I played at the Rucker tournament in Harlem on 155th and Frederick Douglass and St. Nicholas Avenue. It's a lot of things I did in New York, but when we came to Hartford, it was a different twist. So through my era, my time going through, and when I attended Northwest Catholic and I hung out at Kingswood, through the time and era, my mom kept on saying to me, the kids do not have what you have of support. And I kept on saying to her, we really do not have a lot of money, but she said, you have support around you to make yourself grow and nurture. When she died in 97, I had no idea actually how to actually do this project. At that time, I was working at Federal Express, Coca-Cola, and I was actually left the post office. I had like 3 jobs, 3 great jobs. But before that, I actually helped a friend of mine at ACA Foods, which is actually a multi-million-dollar food company out of the north end of Hartford. And I built another company named ELT Corporation. So since I had the business background and knew how to put business plans together and raise money and actually bring people together, she thought for me doing that, I could do something in education in the north end of Hartford. We lived on Magnolia Street, which is one of the craziest streets, or one of the worst streets at that time in the 90s. It was a drug-infested street between that, Burton Street, and Sigourney Street. And the north end was going through a metamorphosis of people from France and Germany. It was a mixture of different people, mostly white, black, green, and red. But as time kept on evolving, the southern blacks and the people from actually came from France and Germany and other Italians and all that moved out of the north end, and it became a West Indian population over the times what it is today. So it took me 4 years from 1997 to 2001 how to actually put MC Square together. I sat down on a train on Amtrak, and I stopped in New Jersey in Princeton to visit a friend of mine, and they brought me to Princeton University, and they showed me exactly where Albert Einstein lived. And everyone knows who Einstein is. He built actually the 28 known galaxies of actually quantum physics. And as I was walking through Princeton, it dawned on me of looking at what Albert Einstein did. So what I ended up doing, I said, we can actually take math and science. And I went right back on the train. I was trying to figure out how to teach kids, because minority kids like things moving fast. Their mind is always going. And I said, we can take the science of math into whatever property or product it can work. So in 2001, when I came back, after my mother died, I met a woman, actually before this, named Apostle Wadey Lanier. She ran a small community church named the New Temple of God in Barber Street. And Pastor Lanier says, all the knowledge you have, Brother Sam, can you actually take what you know, bring it to my church, and I'll bring in the kids? Around Barber Street, there's 3 elementary schools named Clark, Wish, and Waverly School. And I said, Pastor, I'm not part of this part of Hartford. I'm at the other end of Hartford going towards downtown. She says, don't worry about it. Just leave it in the hands of God. From 2001 all the way up to 2011, this woman actually nurtured the project. It wasn't for Wadey Lanier, MC Square would not be up. As she died in August of 2011, MC Square evolved into a different animal, a different type of genre. And a member of ours named Dale Gustafson said to us, since Pastor Lanier is gone, since Sister Ziegler is gone, Mother Stokes, Mother Minor, and other people have actually moved away, and the church is actually sort of shut down. Let's go east of the river and go to Manchester, Connecticut, which is like 15, 20 minutes away. And I sat down and talked to a couple of board members and said, what do you think? They said, well, Samuel, I know you want to leave. I know you want to go back to New York. People are asking to go back to the city and work, or even in D.C. Let's take one more shot. So what we did, we took all what we knew and we reframed the project into the Manchester Project, which is called to this day. So from February or March of this year to the present, we were actually sculpting, molding the Manchester Project until it really started to catch on in August, September, a few months ago. We ran into people like Mr. Silvers of the Neighborhood and Families, Mrs. Bromley, there's actually its connection between the Neighborhood and Family Center in the town of Manchester. On this show, we had a gentleman named Senator Cassano, State of Connecticut. We had a slew of different people that actually started coming out of the woodwork and started grasping towards the MC Square Manchester project. And Mr. Dale and a few others right now to this date is bringing into MCC and some other community organizations, a MAC, and other people that actually is helping us to put this particular project together. One thing I can say about MC Square and Neighborhoods and Families, it's not about the money, it's not about the title, it's about the families and kids or teens within this particular town. MC Square always actually formed our purpose or mission or vision around 2.0 kids, inner city, hard times, hard life, tough love, getting these kids into where they're supposed to be at a grade point average, actually tutoring through math and science and literacy, teaching them actually financial parts of the world that they can go out and do their 4 years in high school, their 4 years in college, or 2 years, or technical school, and actually become a regular citizen, a regular person out there that actually can make a living and take care of their family. But we'll be going beyond that right now. We'll be going that these are the kids that are actually left out in the wilderness or the cold. They're the forgotten kids. Some people call them the kids on the bubble, as people say. Some call it the achievement gap. I don't like the mixed words because basically they are failing kids. And these are the kids that we look at first because they should come first before the AP kids. Right now, because of this, of MC Square, evolved Education One. One of the consultants and members of MC Square the producer of the show, Stan McCauley, says, Samuel, since you're that entrenched into education, why don't you form your own show? Hyacinth Yeti been on this show. I've been knowing her for a number of years. She has 3 kids, 2 girls and 1 boy. They're all brilliant kids. This woman is not rich by far, but rich in knowledge and know where her kids in her life want to go. Nothing's easy in life, but we know there's a promised land over the rainbow. Our goal right now in the Manchester Project is to take 2,000 plus kids out of a failing school and turn the school around where it's supposed to be into a high achieving school, as that is in New Canaan, Greenwich, Richfield, Avon, Simsbury, or West Hartford. This is our goal for the next 3 years, a 3-year pilot program. It's just going to cost millions of dollars, but one thing about it, 80+% of the funds will go to the project. This is geared up towards kids that are actually left out in the cold. As a viewer, as viewing me every week, since you guys been supporting me each week for the last 6 weeks, I take my hat off to the viewers, because this is something that I know you yourself is actually interested in or even have a passion for. As I reach out to everyone each week and talk to everyone that pretty much knows what I like to do, where I want to go, and we've been working with this for over 15 years. And we have some naysayers, quite naturally. But this particular project would actually make us propel to the top. And since there's 15 plus towns that are failing in Connecticut, hopefully the governor, Senator Richard Blumenthal, Senator actually John Larson, and others can actually come out and embrace this project and actually model this into other towns. This is something that we've been working on for a number of years. Again, when we look at the Manchester Project, we're looking at a model, just a speck of what's going to happen years down the road within Connecticut. We just had a tragedy of actually in Newtown, which is actually an upper class town that actually has the wherewithal that actually Hartford does, or East Hartford. And tragedy hits everywhere. How can a rich town have over 28 people actually killed? This is something that is mind-boggling. And this is something that I'm going to actually look at in the Manchester Project towards bullying, towards actually rape, towards actually anything that is negative or that is in crime, that we're going to take a hard look at. At MC Square, we have zero tolerance of actually things like this happening. We cannot see the future. We can actually try to sort of curtail things that if something's going on in a child's mind, or you think something's going to go on down the road or somebody's bringing in a weapon, we're definitely going to take a hard look at this. But our main focus is math and science and literacy of helping these kids get to where they have to be. I'm going to take a little break for a few minutes, and we're going to come back and look at the second half of actually how this project really, really works. And I'm going to go in detail of actually how this project works. And I'm going to leave something in your mind to make you think that could come back and help us for the following year in 2013. I'll be right back. We're going to pay a few bills.
How do you judge a law firm's success? Cases won, money made, or what the firm does in the community? At Dressler Strickland, we know that success is just the beginning. The true measure of success is what you do with it. For 33 years, we've used our success to help our neighbors and our community. 24/7, 11/22. Whenever you need us, we'll be there. Dressler Strickland, building communities one case at a time.
First we read, then Coco Key. What time is it?
Time to read!
It's always time to read. Make Education and Hartford Public Schools declare reading a team sport and award a fun-soaked celebration at Coco Key Water Resort to the school with the most books read. Your achievement level is displayed by Make Education Time to Read wristbands.
Motivate, stimulate, educate.
Make Education makes it fun.
Welcome back to Education One. As I left off, and as I stated before we took a break, we're going to look at actually the anatomy of the Manchester Project. Breaking down the parts of the Manchester Project, we're looking at least minimum 30 kids in the beginning, with a 1-to-2 ratio of actually tutors from surrounding colleges and actually support staff. Through taking a small model or a segment of the Manchester Project or the kids, we can see actually the inner workings or the things that's going on in kids' minds that they think about dropping out or not succeeding in school. The biggest dropout rate is between the 8th and the 10th grade. And this is one of the things that's troubling to me and other members of this particular group. When we bring in the tutors, there's going to be different levels of evaluation and different looks how these kids actually think. So we would have an instructor, we would have the tutors, we would have volunteers, we have actually workshops, and we're going to have like special courses like the CMTs and the CAPs and all that, and the SATs to make sure that we do our own inner breaking down of tests and scores of seeing exactly where these kids are placed each week, each month, each quarter. We will not let a child or a teen drop out of the program or fail behind our moving forward. It's beyond really education, as Pastor Nair told me. It's more social economic. You can teach a child what 2 + 2 is, but when they leave the school at 3, 4 o'clock, and you can extend the hours all you want, is that really going to help the child? Maybe not. Through my understanding in the last 10 years of the inner workings of a New Haven and a Hartford, once the child leaves the school, they can go back to an atmosphere unbearable. I've witnessed this with Pastor Nair. I've witnessed this with other ministers and myself. You have to go beyond the walls, beyond the barriers of actually extending your hand out, this extension of your arm, to see exactly why this child is failing. What is the problem why this child is not coming to school? I've actually witnessed kids in New York in abandoned buildings. I've witnessed kids actually being raped, beat up, bullied, no food, parents in jail, the whole 9 yards. This is actually half of the battle that you have to tackle when it comes down to education. Some people turn a blind eye, but at MC Square we won't. The people that is actually coming into this project, and we're going to break this up in so many different facets and parts, and this is going to be connected so well that that's why we're bringing in different partners throughout the Manchester area. These people are professionals. They know what's going on. It's a smaller area, small density. In Hartford, basically, it's a lot of moving parts. It's a large separation of state and people. And everyone is doing their own thing, which is actually a disconnect of why some things have not worked well in the Hartford district. In the Manchester district, it probably should work. I say on a scale of 1 to 10, the first year we should at least have an 8 or high 9. In the second year should go beyond 10. I'm looking at this particular level of success because we're working in a smaller area. But guess what? The kids are still there with still the greatest need. When we actually tapping into the tutors and the mentors, then we go into actually the nutritional piece, which is a key piece, which we'll bring some outside people and inside people to make sure that these kids are eating a balanced meal, they're not sick, they're healthy, and we will have some exercise to actually what we do. And one of the projects that we're working on, we call it the M1 project, which is called Mass Origin, Newton's Law of Motion and Energy. Now, we're taking actually math and science into sports. Why? Because guess what? It deals with engineering, it deals with physics, it deals with things that it moves in motion. Newton's third law of motion is actually, if there's an action, there's a reaction. And it comes down to anything that moves in cars, bicycles, or even motorcycles. Mostly minority kids like. Kids like, period. Doesn't matter what color. But I figure that if we could actually learn fractions through a movement of bicycles or a skateboard or a car, I think, and if the kid is fascinated in that, we actually should go in that direction. We can go in fashion with design. Still, we're talking about fractions, numbers, measurements, the whole 9 yards in that. So anything that is around math and science, as one of my professors says at Morgan State University, everything is numbers. Everything you do is something about numbers involved. I don't care what it is, it's always something about numbers involved. Since I took that type of knowledge from Dr. Donaldson, and I took physical science with him in physics 101, it sort of fascinated me exactly how he said that and how he actually taught the class. So I'm taking my experience and what I learned from Morgan State University and what I learned from Howard School of Thought and everything else I learned around me as instructors to bring in this particular project for the last 15 years. By far, I'm not a PhD person, but by the 15 years, I feel like I do have a PhD of actually learning what's going on in the outside world of my world. My mom and my father, by trade, my father was a mechanic, worked on cars, and my mother was a homemaker. My mother came from Cuba, and my father was American Indian. And I learned who I was over the years through genealogy. As I looked at the tiers and the people that came through my lineage, I can see exactly who actually was the great minds, and who was the person that built things, and who was the person which is just a subtle person that says you have to endure. You have to keep going out to reach out more than you are now to another generation. If we can teach our kids through an M1 project or a math or a Manchester great, what you would say, project of how to take a number of kids, a great number of kids, and teach them something that they really like. I think that's the end result of actually success. To show other people out there that one way it just doesn't go one way, it goes a multitude of ways. Within the M1 project, we're going to build something of a race car. We can build a bicycle. We can build anything that actually the kids want to do. And at the end of the year, show an expo or a fair that what they learned through a math and science project. And last, in the piece of this, they can actually sell it. There's a piece of financial literacy that we have to add on to it, because most kids that are actually poor or come from the inner city wants to know exactly, if I do this particular project, if I work with this, how do we make money or some type of revenue out of it? We can teach kids from high school to build a business. There's several kids out in Silicon Valley or somewhere out in the Midwest that have actually taken t-shirts and made millions of dollars from it. Most inner city kids do not have the wherewithal to do certain things like this. We have to show kids, any type of kid, doesn't matter who they are, if they're willing to learn, if they have the respect for the adult or the teacher, believe me, you can capture a mind. How can you make a person that is actually failing into a brilliant person? When I looked at Albert Einstein's background and I read some biography, he wasn't really a smart guy, really actually in high school, but he knew that his mind can develop the way he wanted to. And look what he have done. When you say Albert Einstein, everyone knows the man was brilliant. But guess what? In the beginning, he felt he wasn't. 2 weeks ago, I had a special program on Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix did not have a PhD, and he didn't know anything about physics. He knew about music. He knew about electronics. There's not too many people in 1960 was making left-handed guitars. They didn't make no left-handed guitars. So what he had them doing, he bought a white Stratocaster, and he turned it upside down and restrung it. And everybody knew what he could do after that. And he built acid rock. Not the Stones, not the Who, not the Grateful Dead, not Metallica, but a man that actually came out of Seattle and turned something into a revolution in 4 years, and he died at the age of 27. This is something that these people come every 100 or 1,000 years, and when they do come, you need to capture their mind and see exactly what they're doing and how did they do it, and take notes from it. And when these people leave us, does the dream die? No. The dream gets bigger and better. King said it on the mall in D.C. Patrice Lumumba said it in the Congos of Africa. Each one of these people died. Even Kennedy, John Kennedy said it. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. This is the same thing as we asking what the kids and what we can do for the kids. Now, even though some of our kids today did not grow up as they did 30, 40 years ago, but how do you capture a kid mind today in 2013 and make them successful and not go to jail? That is the whole pundits of MC2 technology. I'm sure through the Manchester Project, this can actually happen. Through the teamwork, the collaboration, and the partnerships that we have going, I know through the neighborhood and families, through the MAC Foundation, through Mrs. B, and everyone else that is part of this, Senator Cassano's office, I know in my heart, after 15 years, I know this is going to happen now. Pastor Nair told me, you know, of all the books in the Bible, I love Job. Job endured. It didn't say how long Job had to wait until God blessed him. But when he did, God blessed him 1,000,000 times. And everyone told Job to leave God, leave Jesus. He didn't. This is something that is instilled in my blood, that I'm going to make this project happen. Before we leave the year, I'm going to say to everyone that thanks for tuning in for the last 6 weeks. Thank you for making my show a success. Thank you for just believing in MC2 and Education One. And thanks for just being there with us in the beginning. This was actually a pilot that actually is going to take off. In 2013, we have so many different people coming from all over the United States to show exactly how the Manchester Project would work, how they're going to be part of it, how you can actually be part of it, and actually how the new year is going to be very more successful than 2012. Again, in the next 2 weeks, we won't be on the air the 25th and the 31st because of Christmas and New Year's, but we'll be back on the air on the 8th. Again, we thank you, and we thank you. And out of the bottom of my heart, I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I see you next year. Thank you on Education One.